Everybody, and welcome to North Frontenac Township's regular council meeting of October the 25th, 2024. I'd like to begin this meeting with a public notice. Please be advised, North Frontenac council meetings are recorded. By attending a public meeting of council, you are consenting to your image, voice, and comments being recorded. Members of council, staff, delegates, and attendees are advised that they may be subject to legal action if their actions result in inappropriate and or unacceptable behavior or comments. We begin this gathering by acknowledging and celebrating these traditional lands as a gathering place for the First Peoples and their ancestors, who are entrusted to care for Mother Earth since time immemorial. We do so respecting both the land and the Indigenous people who continue to walk with us through this world. Today, the Township of North Frontenac is committed to working with Indigenous peoples and all residents to pursue a united path of reconciliation. Okay. Our first item is approval of the agenda.
Moved by Councillor Fowler, second by Councillor Fiddle. Be it resolved that council approves the agenda dated October 25th, 2024 as amended.
Are there any comments? In favor? Carried. Is there any disclosure, pecuniary interest, and general nature thereof? Seeing none. One, no business profile, no presentations. We have a delegation from the Perth and Smiths Falls Hospital. Morning, gentlemen.
Good morning. Thank you for the opportunity to join you on such a gorgeous day in North Lanark. Sorry, I knew I'd do that, you know.
You know, they're almost
That's
one
where
and
I'm
the
going
same,
next. That's where I'm going next week. Sorry. But I'd like to introduce my colleague, Greg Best, who some of you, I believe, know, who is also a member of our MRI fundraising committee at the hospital. And we've been, as you might have noticed, doing a fair number of presentations right now among the municipalities. I was at Central Frontenac a couple of weeks ago, and we're basically going out. And as when we were here last year, presenting about the MRI, we promised to come back and keep you up to date on where things are at and what's happening, so that you know that the support you've been providing is actually going to where you assumed it was going. And so we're quite pleased to be able to be here to do that. Margot Hallam, who's our CEO at the foundation, has sent a video ahead as well, which I believe is here, which I'm not going to play right now, but I'll leave it for you to look at your leisure. It's a video we've had done when we did the official ribbon cutting of the MRI back at the beginning of the month. And what was really nice about it was one of the youngest people who used the MRI so far cut the ribbon, a grade 3 student, which was really, really quite nice. But it was a well-attended event, and it's hard to believe that in 2 weeks, the MRI will have been running for a year. So we're still raising funds, as I mentioned last time, that we decided to go ahead and get it put in place because it was a service that was really needed by our communities in terms of what we have. And it's attracted new doctors, as we knew it would. And it's really saved people time and money by being able to go to Perth, or rather Smith Falls, go to the hospital there rather than going to Queens Bay Carleton or to Kingston or to other locations. It's roughly about 1,900 people have used the MRI at this point in terms of, and it's only running from 9 to 5 during the day. So just quickly in terms of some summary items for you. As you know, the foundation has a board. It's independent, and representation from a broad group of folks. It's what we call is a skills-based board rather than just a board. So we have literally positions on the board that are, when we have someone leave, recruitment takes place to fill someone with a skill set. So we have the accounting, and we have the legal, and we have all of that stuff on board. So this is our current board. Over the 2023-24 year, the money that was raised by the foundation for the hospital, not including the money for the MRI, was 1.89 million from our communities, which, given the current economic situation, is a fairly significant rise. The number of departments that were affected were 8. The number of people donating to the hospital has increased by 805 during that year. So these are people who are basically looking at long-term commitments, and it was like 2,912 donations. The donations that came in went into pharmacy, laboratory, medical, surgical, things like that. The lighting in the ORs had to be replaced, which is a phenomenal expense, stuff like that. Chairs, beds, blood pressure, anything that you touch in the hospital is paid for by you and I. It's not paid for by the government. The only thing the government does is give us permission to come and ask you for money. In terms of the MRI campaign, we're literally about $3 million right now, which is about halfway through the campaign, and which is, I think, pretty good in terms of the kind of impact that we're getting from the communities. Obviously, engaging business has been a bit of a challenge this last year because of the economic situation. The number of businesses who can't support anymore because they're running on fumes. There was one business who has been a generous donor in the area for many, many years, had 33 charities in the area that they supported. They're only doing 6 now because they can't afford to support the charities. So that's the climate that we're working in right now. So the support that we're getting from North Frontenac and people is just amazing, and people have really bought into the process. The other thing that's really interesting about this MRI is that it's a state-of-the-art machine, and we're now having groups coming from all over the country to come and see how this thing works, because it's sort of they're looking at getting MRIs. They want to see how ours goes or is working. And what it hasn't officially come out yet, but one of the things that we've been able to do with this new MRI is with the new software that's available. The MRI will be being used for breast screening rather than the mammogram. It will be a much more accurate, much less invasive way of doing the same thing with greater speed. So what they've been able to do is actually expand the kinds of services that the MRI will be able to offer to our population, which I think is great in terms of providing good quality health for women in our area. We had the first patient, say it was about 2 years ago or a year ago, and it's quite a thing. We were very lucky to be able to hire staff before the MRI was installed. So the staff were able to get trained and set up structures and everything so that you go in and out, it's lickety split. There's no waiting. I mean, it's fairly straightforward. The kinds of fundraising we've been doing, we've been doing family fun days, things like that. The family fun day this year that we hosted in Smith Falls raised actually $57,000, and $35,000 was last year, and it went to the MRI, the radiothons and things like that. So we're out doing a large number of things. We've installed a major donor recognition wall at both sites, and so contributors to our projects are recognized. So if you get a chance in either one of the campuses, please take a look and see where you're listed and that kind of thing. It's moving along very nicely. So I think we've set out. We still have $3 million to raise, but it'll take some time to do that, and hopefully we can cross the finishing line with it. So I'm here as well to answer any questions you might have about how things are working and with the program. But thank you very much for your support so far, and we look forward to continuing to work with you. Thank you.
So thank you for your presentation, gentlemen. Appreciate it. Anyone in council have any comments or questions? Deputy Mayor.
With $3 million left to pay, how does, I'm just fascinated by the financing of, you got a $6 million machine, you paid 3, GE giving you a loan over time? How does that
No,
work?
the hospital has taken out financial instruments to cover the cost of the. So I don't think you'd find GE wanting to wait for 3 years to get paid. Basically the loans are taken out at the hospital, and so what we're now doing is paying off those loans with the money as it comes in. One of the elements there is that it's part of the hospital's budgeting plan in terms of where things are going and how they're approaching various things. So the more that we can move forward with the fundraising and pay down the remaining 3, the faster the hospital will be able to engage in some of the other elements that need improving and meeting the kinds of standards that the people here expect. So
Councilor Boone.
Just a couple of quick questions. What's the lifespan on an MRI?
it's about 10 years.
10 years.
Yeah. So
Not that long, really.
no. And the big thing with, particularly with this one, is it's because the actual hardware itself doesn't change that much. It's the actual software that's the upgrading. So you can get additional modules, and you can, and I think that's one of the things that we're looking at doing, obviously with the breast screening module, looking at the kinds of needs the community has and increasing the versatility of the MRI as it moves forward. But the actual hardware, it's about 10 years.
And so John's quick question, excuse me. If I needed an MRI, what's the waiting period right now?
They have a triage system. So if you've been in an accident or something and you need like one today, it moves very, very quickly. So like, for instance, the hockey player, one of our local hockey players had a very bad check and was in the next day for an MRI. I think the waiting list right now, we do have a waiting list. It's about 4 months, but that's still about half the waiting time or more than for the other locations. The other thing that happens is that because there's an MRI in Brockville, when you get cancellations, they actually have a system where the appointments are moved around. So even though you may be given an appointment for 2 months from now, on the triage system, if somebody cancels or they've gone and got an MRI at another location, which does happen, then they rejig the list and start moving people forward.
I know we talked before about the possibility of extending hours would alleviate that for.
To a certain extent, yes, it would. As a matter of fact, the hospital right now is doing a business case study, as in everything with the Ontario government, you have to present a business case before they'll consider approving what you'd like to do. But they are doing a business case for extending hours, because basically it's running full bore the way it's supposed to. And if we had permission to add some more hours to it, then we would quite clearly be able to move more people through the system. But it's, they say that there hasn't been really any hiccups with it in terms of moving it through. The system is the staff are really happy with it in terms of the diagnostics. The doctors are very happy because they can get access to information that they weren't before. So.
Councilor Fowler.
Yes, just want to make a comment that I'm really happy that this device is available to us. I've had an MRI and had to travel a long distance with Oakville, and I do appreciate your efforts helping us get this. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for your time, gentlemen. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Have a good meeting.
Moved by Counselor Hudel, second by Counselor Fowler. Be resolved that council receives for information the presentation providing an annual update from Bruce Rigby, Chair of the MRI Committee, Perth and Smith Falls District Hospital Foundation, and thanks Mr. Rigby for his time spent today.
Any final comments? In favor? Motion's passed. Adoption of minutes.
Moved by Counselor Fowler, second by Counselor Hudel. Be it resolved that council adopts the minutes as circulated of a meeting of the Personnel and Audit Committee held October 3rd, 2024, and a regular meeting of council held October 4th, 2020.
Comments? In favor of the motion? Motion's carried. Okay. Business arising out of the minutes. Resolution, community grants, Claremore Community Volunteers.
Moved by Counselor Hudel, second by Counselor Fowler, whereas at the meeting held May 16th, 2024, council passed resolution 19624, receiving for information the Manager Community Development's administrative report entitled 2024 Community Grants Application, and approved $1,000 for the Claremore Community Volunteers for the purchase of armchairs for the Claremore Community Hall. Therefore, be resolved that council receives for information a letter dated October 8th, 2024 from the Claremore Community Volunteers advising there are similar chairs located in the Claremore Hall available for public use, and that the CMCV is requesting permission to use the funds to purchase 2 child height tables and folding tables to be used at the Claremore Hall, and the council approves the change of use for the fund.
Are there any comments? Deputy Mayor.
I just want to say I've done this myself. I buy something I think I need and then discover I have one. This is a better case because I haven't actually bought it yet. I'm in favor of it.
In favor of the resolution? The resolution's carried. Joint council meeting, Mazenod Property Owners Association on invasive species.
Moved by Counselor Fowler, second by Counselor Hudel. Whereas at the joint council meeting between North Frontenac Council and Addington Highlands Council held September 9th, 2024, the Mazenod Property Owners Association requested both councils issue of official tax receipts and Eurasian milfoil invasive species was included as a discussion topic on the agenda. Now therefore be it resolved that council receives a letter dated October 8th, 2024 from the Mazenod Property Owners Association regarding government action to manage Eurasian water milfoil invasive species. The council instructs the CAO to contact the Ministry of Natural Resources and Forestry to advise of the concern regarding the importance of provincial management of Eurasian water milfoil, and that council supports the request for a meeting with representatives from the Township of North Frontenac, representatives from the Township of Addington Highlands, MPs and MPPs in both ridings, senior level representatives from the Ministry of Natural Resources, the Department of Oceans and Fisheries, and the Mississippi Valley Conservation Authority. When the council receives for information the Township of Addington Highlands Council resolution advising they are agreeable to meeting with the above noted representatives, the council instructs the CAO to work with the Addington Highlands CAO to coordinate a meeting, and the council representatives for North Frontenac will need to note that, and that the MPOA's request for council to pursue the Ontario Protecting Environment from Harmful Invasive Species $16 million grant be deferred until after the discussions with Township of Addington Highlands and or the meeting with the above noted representatives has occurred.
Discussion. Definitely. Councilor Regent.
I'm happy to be the representative, considering this is my ward, and the amount of work that's been done with them. So in that regard, happy to volunteer to do whatever it is that you've done.
Deputy Mayor.
Is there any speculation on the possibility of gathering such a meeting together, being successful? It's a pretty tall order to get
Very
federal,
tall order.
provincial people in the room with us to talk seriously about an issue that's province-wide. And on the issue of representation around this table, we all have lakes. I'm not volunteering to be on the group, but we all have lakes with Eurasian milfoil in it, so.
First of all, I'd like to say, I appreciate you putting your name out. My only concern is, I bet you wouldn't do a good job, you may be a little too close. to it because there are so many other lakes here, but one of them spring fed that's got it in. It would be really difficult for you to keep an open mind. If you can do it, then I'll support you. But, I think to your point, John, it's going to be very difficult to get a meeting like this. We have to try. We did get both members of parliament, both mayors, other representatives, and the federal rep for Livingston Addington, together a few weeks ago. So, you know, it is possible to actually do that. But we'll have to see where it all goes. Councilor Region.
I would agree with you. I think this is a good start. I don't think this means that we're only gonna talk about Mazenod Lake. I mean, obviously, it's in reference to their lake, but I think the way they're, and this is what I'm saying, like I've talked ad nauseum about this issue with the board there and the lake steward, and I think the purpose of this is it's to bring this out in the open a little bit more, with the intent that this will help other lakes that are having the same issue. And I don't actually think it'll be as difficult to get a few of these people together as it might seem.
What was the Addington Highlands resolution on this? I know they talked about this. Anybody?
I did look, I did watch the meeting, but I didn't pay attention to the resolution. Yeah, they have a letter here. And so they're supporting it. Sure.
And further, that the request that the Township of Addington Highlands communicate to the MNR Council's concern regarding the importance of provincial management of this invasive species, and the request for a meeting with MPs and MPPs in both ridings, senior level residents from the MNR and Department of Oceans, Fisheries, and the MVCA be supported in principle, and that staff be requested to communicate with their counterparts at the Township of North Frontenac to determine their interest in a meeting with the above referenced representatives. And further, that request to pursue the Ontario Preventing Environment Harmful Invasive Species 16 million grant be deferred until after discussion with Township of North Frontenac has occurred and our meeting with the above noted representatives.
So does that mean that if we have this meeting, that they're looking for us to make the application for the grant? So they won't be able to, Corey.
So I asked, I had Brooke take a look at, when we got this, I asked Brooke to take a look at the grant, which she did. So according to the guidelines, so that's a 1-to-1 donation. It's not just free money. So what you're asked for the grant for, you're contributing, whether it be money or in kind. So it also says that the way I read it is that they would be eligible to apply for it. Yes. So from the guidelines that I've read and the way I understand them, it appears as though they could apply, the association could apply for it.
Is that a provincial or a federal grant? Right.
So, I think this is extremely difficult thing to get done. But, I'm willing to help. I'm not gonna take the lead in this. We'll let Stephanie take the lead in this, but I can help her with anything she is required. But, this isn't an easy task to get everyone together, through my experience. Doesn't happen very often. But yeah, I can help. But
Deputy Mayor.
Actually, it sounds like the resolution is asking the CAOs to take the lead. So maybe we should ask the CAO if he's willing to work on this.
It's just the CAOs organizing the meeting, right?
That's correct.
And what happened, the issue of this chemical that was, that they were gonna put in the water, is that a side issue, or does that come out of a meeting, or, that was pretty controversial? is that being put aside for now until we have a meeting?
Councillor Regent.
Yes, this is not to discuss whether or not the treatment is appropriate or not, and whether or not they're going to do it. This is to discuss this problem in a general sense, not only for this lake, but as I said, ideally, this will become a bit of a, I don't know what the word is, but a bit of a foundation to discuss this issue in all of our lakes that have it. So this is not to say, yes, we're going to put something in Mazenod Lake. That has nothing to do with this.
Corey.
So just in saying that, and they have the request in here for the grant application, but it's not clear as to what the grant application is for.
Yeah.
So I'm a little bit, it's just something we need to think about, because I know there's a lot of controversy over the whole chemical in the lake thing that they talked about. So I'm just a little bit leery. I'd really like to see some clarification as to what it is that they want us or Addington Highlands or them to apply for, because that's important here. That's pretty crucial in these discussions.
Roy.
So I agree with our CAO, but maybe out of that meeting will come some clarification.
Yeah.
The other thing I see with this, I mean, the Eurasian milfoil is just one invasive species, right? There are many we have around here, you know, and so.
And the lakes just aren't restricted to North Front.
Right.
Entire Eastern Ontario.
Yeah,
Well,
it's
all
it's a
material.
big issue.
Councillor Regent.
Counselor Hoodle's correct. I mean, I think that kind of is what we've been talking about. This is a bit of a starting point. I think they would like the province to recognize that we have this problem, and it's somewhere to start, really. And it says right here, like the grant would be something that would be after. I'm happy to talk to the board about exactly what their intent is for that.
Roy.
Yeah, I think the lake associations realize that, you know, the townships aren't gonna be able to do anything financially. But I think where we can play a role is a liaison between the upper government and the associations. I think it's easier for us to get in contact with them than a lake association. So I'm willing to help with that.
It was raised to some extent at Addington Highlands, and there was a tremendous amount of feedback, and it was almost all negative. And it wasn't for things like you're placing the lake, it was you're beautifying your property, it was this, it was that. And it was much different than anything I'd ever expected. So, okay, are we okay with Stephanie being the rep? Roy, okay. All right, so put them both in, and has she read the resolution? Right.
Resolution's been amended, and that council representatives for North Frontenac will be Stephanie Regent and Roy Hudel.
So. All in favor? Vern, before I pronounce, good morning, before I pronounce this as being passed, do you have any comments?
Well, my concern is, are our waterways not more or less the responsibility of Natural Resources and the Department of Fisheries?
Yes, they're all invited. This is just basically a fact finding, a general direction style of meeting, bring everybody together, see if we have a consensus. And then Mazenod as a lake association appears to be prepared to take the lead.
Sounds good.
Okay. All right. Motion passed. K&P Trail Development.
Moved by Councillor Fowler, second by Councillor Hudel, whereas council passed resolution 26023 at their meeting on June 9th, 2023, supporting the development of the KMP Trail and a partnership agreement between the county and the township for the use of properties and roads under the control of the township, and instructing the clerk to draft an agreement with the county. Therefore, be it resolved that council receives the draft agreement included under the bylaw section, and that council will consider a bylaw later in the meeting to authorize the mayor and clerk to sign the agreement.
Any comments? Corey?
Just want to make you aware too that Richard Allen, Manager for Economic Development from the county, is online as well if we have questions for him. And then also Greg Wise, our Public Works foreman, is here in Darwin's place today in case you have questions for our guys. So Greg's had minimal involvement, but there might be something he can help with if you have questions.
Good. Welcome, Greg. Good morning, Richard.
Good morning.
Okay, so Counselor Fowler first.
Yes, I'm just wondering if these lands include the expropriated lands from the individuals in the township.
Yes, they do. No?
So this agreement is just for use of township
Sorry.
property. So it's just the use of township property for the trail.
Yeah, I'm going by the maps. They went past that. Okay. Deputy Mayor.
I'd like to know, where is the 2,335 meters of roadway? Is that a single contiguous section? Like, is that over the bridge? Where is it?
Yes, so there are a number of spots, but specifically we're looking at across the bridge, a bridge, so north of the Mississippi, so over the bridge at the Mississippi and up to where Old Station Road enters. And then we also are looking at so is this road allowance that we're talking about or roadway? Sorry, just to clarify.
I guess I was thinking this is the road allowance beside the road that you'd use.
Yeah, so this would be actually in Mississippi Station. So there's road allowance that contains KMP Trail south of Gully Road and Shiner Road. And so there would be use of that road allowance where we move into the 509 road allowance. And then through Mississippi Station along and north to where we get to the to just south of the Mississippi River. Sorry, that's road allowance that we're talking about.
Thanks. Anybody else? I have some comments. Thank you, Stephanie. First comment is when you look at the agreement, the clause numbering is not consistent. There seems to be an error. Goes to about clause 10 and then jumps down to clause 6 and then continues, so that's to be redone. I'd like to see a clause added that says the county is responsible for any damage to the township right away. If it can be directly attributable to trail users, and I'm thinking about snowmobiles and carbide tracks and whatever else they're using these days. Especially when they cross the road at right angles, that'll happen in at least 2 places. And then I have a real serious concern, especially after what happened last night. Putting ATVs and cyclists on a travel portion of the way, it's fairly heavy used between guardrails. At Mississippi Station, Richard, they did a great job of widening the shoulder. And if something happens, the people can go off onto the lawns because it's fairly flat. But once you get just to the bridge and you go north of the bridge and you go up to where it crosses over towards Station Road, it's the blue circle, it's location number 3. You've got gravel trucks coming out of the pits up there. They're 40 tons each or whatever they are. They're loaded, they're tractor trailers. And over the last 2-3 weeks, especially when they've been building the last section of the KMP, they were in there every 15 or 30 minutes. And there's people there, it's really dangerous. And then the same part is when you get up onto 509 and you're in between Snow Road and Alpha, that's an 80 kilometer per hour. Actually, both of them are 80 kilometers per hour, and it's wide open. So people will be not doing 80, they'll be doing a little more than 80. And the sight lines up there are fine, but I think we need to widen the shoulders. I know it may not be in the budget, Richard, but I think we need to do it. What do you think? Councillor Fowler?
Yeah, north of Snow Road, the shoulders are very narrow. And it's a windy road, if they're gonna be on the road at all.
I actually went and looked at it. I spent like an hour on those 2 sites. I walked it and the shoulders can be widened. It's probably going to add another $100,000 or $200,000 to the overall budget, but we're at this for 8 or 9 years. It takes another couple of years to do it. So be it, at least people will be safe. And the reason I'm bringing it up now is that when we sign this, we're saying we agree with everything. I have an issue with this.
So
Hang on.
if I may, Mr. Mayor, okay.
Sure.
Just the part of this is it's a partnership agreement, not just a use agreement. So the goal is for us to work hand in hand with Public Works and the council to ensure that we're covering off on some of these concerns as we go. So we don't have a development plan or a construction plan in place yet for north of the Mississippi, where some of these sites that we need to consider development for are. And we can put a review process in, perhaps that would help us move forward. Because if we put into this agreement every sort of specific element that we want, we're going to want to make sure that we add every specific element for every trail related piece as our relationship grows into the agreement. I think we might be better to have a clause that has some sort of review provision if that is modified. The current goal is that we would review and work on this with staff. If that's not enough, we can take a look at something else.
Howard, you were going to say something? Over the Council Hoodoo.
Yeah, I'm concerned, I'd like, Richard, if you could clarify what you mean by Station Road. There is a Station Road up there, and that's north of the river. What are the plans for that?
So the old Station Road is the forced road that exists and has been used for trail traffic in the past. Is used by the residents as a roadway, and we simply are requesting access across that forced road to re-engage with the trail, just as we would use access on any other road.
But there's an old road that has been abandoned and the trail had used it in the past. I understand that that's also a driveway for one of the residents up that way. And how is that going to affect that person or that individual when you're running?
Excuse me, Councilor Fowler, you guys are talking about the same thing. Same piece of property. From 509 back towards where Station Road comes back and around that area through there. Right, that's the driveway they want to use.
Well, the actual road that is plowed and maintained by the township is called Station Road.
It is.
This is it used to be a road that connects to that road.
Yes.
And it's
But I understand that that's also a driveway to one of the residents. They have a 911 number right on 509. It goes and that leads up to their property. Have you sorted that out?
So Richard's made a point that you can't solve everything today, but my concern is we signed this agreement. We don't have any leverage as a township as to what we really want to see here. And I, for one, am not in favor of mixing bicycles, ATVs, and pedestrians on a narrow piece of roadway in between two guardrails at 80 kilometers an hour. I don't care how many signs you put up. The speed limits have got to be dropped, which would be probably our issue. But I want to ask them, and the trouble is there's a lot of water around here. So I looked at it, you can widen the shoulders. It won't be $10,000. Let me add a couple zeros. But I think we have to do it. So other than those two things with the agreement that I mentioned, I would not be in favor of signing this time. Councilor Goodall.
So I've always been in favor of the Cape Feed Trail. I think it's a great idea, but I have to agree with the mayor. That was the time that we get something done. You know, I don't know that area as well as you do, but I have driven by there, and it does seem to be a sort of a curious piece of drive.
If you think about down the road 20 or 30 years, if you go on just a little bit and you go up to the corner in Snow Road, there are two huge gravel pits there. Actually, there's three. First one's played out. The other two maybe have 10 or 15 years in them or whatever it is. That corner is an hour and a quarter from downtown Ottawa, and an hour and a quarter, an hour and 5 minutes from downtown Kingston. And if you go back to what Sally McIntyre from MBCA said, it's not if, it's when. So this is the potential development site. Can you imagine having a KNP trail? What an asset. You can hop on your ATV, you can go for whatever you want, you can fishing, go hunting, you can do anything you want. That's the development site, that entire area. But it's reaching down the road. I just want to get this right. I don't want to sign something that says, well, you signed this, we can go ahead and do it, and we'll come back and worry about the shoulder later. I like some kind of commitment that, you know, we're going to get something that's a lot safer than what we've got there now. And I don't think we can do it without widening that roadbed through there in both areas. Richard?
Yes, if I may, Mr. Mayor, it seems that your concerns are primarily located in Snow Road or north of the Mississippi, and which is half or a little less than half the properties that we're looking at setting the agreement up for use on. The other properties that are south of the Mississippi are already in operation and have been in operation prior to the county's involvement. This includes south of Shiner Road, where there are two bridges on what is currently township property, and those bridges do pose a liability risk that the township's not in the trail business, but the county is, and it may be advantageous for us to look at establishing a basic agreement for those places that are already in place, and then looking at amending the agreement as we move forward into Snow Road and further north, where we have more roadways that we'd be using.
So can I amend the resolution? I'd like to amend, I'd like to actually do the other way. I'd like to amend the resolution by referring it to the next meeting. And I'd like it to come back with a clause about potential damage and having the clauses properly numbered in sequence. Okay. And Richard, I'm down there next week. If you want to have a discussion about what my opinion is on that section of road. I actually have pictures of it, so we can have a discussion right there. See it in glorious color. Up to you.
I'm sure we can find a moment.
Great.
So I really like Richard's second part there about the basic one for that's already established. That might be something we talked about the bridges and stuff on the trails that need some work to because they're on township property, they pose a bit of a liability issue. So it'd be really nice to get something in place in the meantime with, you know, to cover us off for that. And I think, Richard, you've already done some work on those bridges, or you're planning to?
Yes, we'd like to we'd like to be able to do some work on those bridges, but we want to make sure we have a partnership agreement in place before they're going to represent some significant investment over and above the trail upgrades. They're on Black Creek, and they're just south of of Shiner Road. So there are two of them located between Robertsville and Mississippi Station.
Okay, the one on the Robertsville Road, and then the second one, is that those big culverts that they put in?
No, these are two bridges that are very close to that big culvert that are maybe 200 meters to 400 meters south of there.
Okay.
So they're actually not the one located at Robertsville Road is on county property, but these ones are on what is currently township property.
Can we just defer this particular motion and then bring it back with all of this? Like, how do we want to do this? Which is always, it seems like there's two agreements here, but. Deputy Mayor?
It sounds like one of your big concerns is putting all this traffic between guardrails. And it's, my understanding is that's all north of the Mississippi only.
Yeah.
So perhaps we need two usage agreements, one for the trails south of the Mississippi, that would be amended slightly to include a road damage clause. And a second agreement for the more complex issue a bit north of the Mississippi. Is that possible?
Your first proposal, south of Mississippi, would include the bridges Richard's talking about.
Those don't appear to be controversial. They're off, they're not on the 509,
No, they're on Robertson Road. One of them is.
which is not a heavily traveled road. It seems to be a lot less complex south of the Mississippi than north of it.
Corey and then Brett.
Oh, sorry, I can wait.
Brett.
Yeah, I think if, this resolution only includes south of the Mississippi River, ideally. With the other amendments as well. I know where those two bridges are that Richard's talking about, and they are quite a ways south of the river.
Okay, so that's a third agreement then. You're going to divide this into two agreements, and then the bridges would become a third agreement. I don't care. I just want to make sure that we're not mixing people and ATVs and trucks and cars in a narrow roadway. Yeah. And the trucks come down that hill, they're loaded, they're 40 tons, they're accelerating, they hit the bridge and they go up the other side. And when they come back, they're empty, but they're not wasting any time. So. Okay, Richard?
So just to note that currently, our future development plans to take most of the trail traffic off of the roadways. Currently, trail users do still go onto the roadway at Mississippi River. They have the legal right, whether they're in an ATV or on a bicycle, and they go around Snow Road Station some 6 kilometers to reconnect with the KMP Trail north of Snow Road Station. So they travel a much longer distance currently in and with traffic than what we're proposing to do in the future. And so we're also looking at when we establish that the trail through Snow Road Station, we'll be eliminating almost at least 5 crossings that snowmobiles make currently as they try to travel back and forth along the 509 to get to where the KMP Trail travels north on the MVCA property. So I just want to point out that what we do have safety in mind. While there is some locations that safety would be more paramount going forward, ultimately the vision is to get trail users off of roads, and that's part of the goal as we develop and work together with the township. And so I just want to highlight that the long-term development goals here are in line with what you're stating, Mayor Lichty.
Okay. Just so you know, I don't see a lot of ATVs going around. Some do. They come up to the corner, get lost, and then they head down towards where the KMP would head north up towards Wilbur and the Lanark County line. Snowmobiles, for the most part, they're very seldom on the road. They have trails marked and they're on the right of way. To try and purchase right away, though, would mean trying to purchase right away from one of the people we expropriated land off of, so that isn't going to happen easily. Anyway, we'll leave that. So do we want to divide this from the bridge south or the river south and say, okay? Corey?
But before we get to, can I, and respectfully, 100% respectfully, can I ask about the part about the damage? So currently and throughout many years, we have several crossings in the township where snowmobiles use from OFSC trails throughout. And I'm not, Darwin and Richard and Kevin and I talked about this the other day. And I guess we're just maybe looking for some clarification on what those concerns. I mean, again, I remember previous councillor Martin had concerns about them crossing, but again, this has happened here for years in the township, and there's many crossings across the road. Can I ask Greg what kind of damage we're seeing in those crossings to date, or are you okay with that, Mr. Mayor?
There's, because most of our roads are surface treatment, they don't stand up as well as asphalt. The new technology with carbides, studs, horsepower, they hurry to get across the road, they usually on the throttle, and it does damage to the crossings for sure.
And in this particular area, just south of the bridge, the trail used to go up, across the road and up and come back down to the bridge. And there was a piece there, maybe 5 or 6 meters wide, that was just brutal because it's going horizontal to the road direction. And I actually talked to Darwin about this. It's not so much if the machine's running with the roadway, but when it goes across it, it just seems to tear it up. Councillor Fowler.
Yeah, one of the particular areas they're speaking of is where they're going across in the wintertime, it seems to heave. And they put the bump sign up, caution bump in that area. That's how bad it is. It's quite a significant amount of damage.
But if we add it, what's the harm if we don't use it? It's just there in case we did. Deputy Mayor.
I'm just thinking currently we have damage and we cover it within our own budgets and it can be attributed to a tourist cost. It's a cost of keeping visitors coming to our township. So to start loading this onto the county as a new cost is a little bit unreasonable.
Anyone else? So do we just restrict this agreement with the amendments we've asked for to the sections, which is only section, there's the one south of the Mississippi Station.
1, 2, 3.
For now, that's section what, 1 and 2? I got that right?
It would be section 1 till so in Schedule A, it would be sections 1 till 5.
Right. 1 to 5, and then we think about what we're going to do, and once we have some level of comfort what the proposed plan for the reconstruction is, we can then go from there. Because the trails are only open to the bridge. It should be done today, Richard, from what I saw this morning. And everybody's covered then.
With respect, I think that's a reasonable way to go forward. And what we can do is amend this agreement to add those properties and any future clauses associated with those roadways at the time that we've had the discussions and put the plans in place, if that makes sense.
So just a comment, and I have to apologize. I don't know that area of the township that well. I'm not going to speak for Councilor Regent, but I'm sure she doesn't know it that well either. But Richard, you know, it'd be a great idea is to have a ATV meeting out there and you take us through the trail and show us exactly all the different issues. I think that'd be something the county should be showing us.
Sounds great. We can do that.
But you only have to go from the bridge and Snow Road. Yeah, we can do that. No, it's more fun on an open ATV, right? Okay. All right, so we are accepting the resolution. So we're voting on the resolution for everything south of the river, which is only the section, I don't know what we got here. Yeah, 1 to 5, with the addition of a clause saying the county is responsible for any damage directly or partially attributable to trail users. And this is going to breed more snowmobile, or going to increase the number of snowmobiles on the trail and so on. It's a great trail, it looks wonderful. So. While we're waiting for Tara to catch up to us, what was the value of the contract from, clearing the station up to the bridge? The Snow Road?
So the grant that we applied for the project was just under $700,000, and the work that's taking place is below the budget at the moment, and but we still have some signage to install for that work. So we haven't got the final numbers for that project secured yet.
Okay.
But at the moment, we are working under budget.
When we get that all done, can you send me an email? Let me know how much we spent on it.
Sure.
Because I did read the budget presentation for next week's work. And I saw what you have set aside for the piece from 509 North. You know, we could talk about that. You already heard my opinion on it, but anyway. Okay, are we ready to go?
Therefore be resolved, the council receives the draft agreement included under the bylaws section, and that council instructs the county and township staff to amend the agreement to 2 agreements, one for south of the Mississippi River and one north of the river, and include a clause to have the county responsible for damages caused by trail users, and that the agreement for north of the river include details to address safety along Road 509.
Can we just not just delete everything north of the river out of this? That would be easier. Just restrict it to areas 1 to 5. That would include everything. It would legalize the trail from the bridge south. And that's exactly what the trail is right now, and not worry about the piece north of the river until everybody's a little more comfortable with it.
Tara, would you be comfortable with us just having the single agreement, but adding those potential properties of the townships in after we have a development plan going north, and so we amend the existing agreement instead of having 2 agreements. So I think that's where we landed, and I think will be simpler for us to manage and also for council to understand.
And that council instructs the county and township staff to amend the agreement to only include the property south of the Mississippi River. And that the properties north of the river be included after a plan has been established for construction.
Corey?
So are you wanting a tour for a council, or you just want to go and meet Rich? If you do, then we need to add that to the resolution here. This is the time to do it.
We could have a second resolution, though. If you want to go and, Roy?
I don't know if you need a resolution. I'm sure Richard would just organize something and call it a meeting, and anybody wants to come and take a tour around the KP trail. And because I haven't been to that northern part, I've been to the southern one.
So these
Sarah?
sorry.
Kara and then Corey.
Well, I don't think it's appropriate for all of council to get together out on the trail. We'd be very cautious about meetings and things like that. So I think it would be better if there's 1 or 2 of you who don't know and would like to meet up with Richard and go and see, being better than if, again, we have to be very cautious about quorum and things like that.
Corey?
I think that makes sense. Absolutely. That was going to be my next comment. We can't just do all of council.
Okay, that's fine. I'll go with Jerry. We'll go for a ride one day and he can show me. And Stephanie, yeah.
That's it.
You have an ATV?
No, I do not.
Bring along.
I have 2 snowplows, but I don't have an ATV.
All right,
Richard, are you available to take them and show them, or do you need Richard to show you that?
I'd be happy to lead them on a tour, and I can coordinate a couple ATVs through the local ATV club.
I don't need to see it.
you probably should, especially when we go north of 509. Conservation.
Sure, Roy and I will go. Let's go.
You know, if you go off the trail, that's bad news, eh? Okay, all right, so what do we got here once again?
Resolution has been amended and that council instructs the county and township staff to amend the agreement to only include the properties south of the Mississippi River, and that the properties north of the river be included after a plan has been established for construction.
Yeah, but I also want those, the clause numbering sorted out, and we want the, that one clause about damage included.
Yes.
That's okay.
An additional, and that a clause be added regarding potential damage being the responsibility of the county.
All in favor? That motion, amended motion is carried. Okay, thank you, Richard.
Thank you.
See you Tuesday.
Looking forward to working with you on the trails in North Frontenac. Take care.
Okay, item 10A, communications, section A.
Moved by Counselor Hudel, second by Counselor Fowler. Be it resolved, the council receives for information Section A items of the clerk's administrative report entitled Communications of Interest.
Any comments? In favor? Carry. Communications, section B, B1, Town of Tweed.
Moved by Counselor Hudel, second by Counselor Fowler. Be resolved that council receives for information the municipality of Tweed's resolution advising the municipality is entering into an agreement to receive the Canada Community Building Funds administered by the Association of Ontario Municipalities on behalf of the federal government. And that non-residential construction price inflation has risen 29% since 2020, with municipalities facing soaring costs for infrastructure projects without a corresponding growth in revenue. And that there is a requirement for municipalities to complete an asset management plan and housing needs analysis, with both plans showing the large funding gap between the infrastructure and housing needs and funds available through taxation. And that municipalities are facing a gap in federal infrastructure funding as the 10-year Investing Canada Infrastructure Program has ended. And that the Council of the Township of North Frontenac supports the municipality of Tweed's request to the federal government to provide a supplement to the allocations provided to municipalities under the AMO CBBF agreement for 2024 to 2028 for the amount that was allocated, effectively doubling the allocations for those years. And the council instructs the clerk to provide this resolution to the municipality of Tweed, MFOA, AMO, Federal Finance Minister Chrystia Freeland, and MP Scott Reed.
Comments? Deputy Mayor?
I wonder if it will just be us 2 townships sending this off as a request, or if there will be more widespread support for something like this. You can always ask.
I have no idea. Does anybody know? Kara?
Well, this resolution actually has been circulating quite a bit, and there are other municipalities that have provided support to it.
Councilor Fowler? Okay, all right, all in favor? That motion's carried. Okay, item B2, Town of Bradford West Wilmberry, request for support Ontario Deposit Return Program expansion endorsement.
Moved by Counselor Fowler, second by Counselor Hudel, be resolved that council receives for information a letter dated September 20th, 2024 from the Township of Bradford West, Willenberry to the Ministry of Environment, Conservation and Parks regarding the Ontario Deposit Return Program. That as the Ontario Deposit Return Program has successfully incentivized recycling of alcohol beverage containers, resulting in the removal of 204,000 tons of greenhouse gas emissions, the Township of North Frontenac recognizes the potential for similar success with non-alcoholic beverages. And that in June 2023, MECP highlighted they are considering the adoption of a deposit and return system for non-alcoholic beverages, which presents a unique opportunity to further promote recycling, reduce litter, and encourage sustainable practices among consumers. And that the Township of North Frontenac supports the expansion of the Ontario Deposit Return Program to include non-alcoholic beverage containers to enhance environmental stewardship and foster a culture of sustainability within our community. The council instructs the clerk to provide a copy of this resolution to the Minister of Environment, Conservation and Parks, Minister of Finance, and John Jordan, MPP.
Comments? Counselor Fowler.
I think this is a good program. I remember when I was very young that we had deposits on hot bottles and things like that, and that was our source of candy in the day. So I think it's a good thing. I'm glad to hear that it might come back.
Something like 2 cents a bottle, right? That's a long, long way back. Okay. All in favor of this resolution? Resolution's carried. Item B3, OPP Municipal Billing Bureau Annual Billing Statement.
Moved by Counselor Hudel, seconded by Deputy Mayor Ingles. Be it resolved that council receives for information a letter dated October 4th, 2024 from the Municipal Policing Bureau with the 2025 annual billing statement package. And that there is an increase of $178,294, 21.39% over last year, which correlates to an approximate 2.5% levy increase for the 2025 budget.
Okay, comments? Counselor Fowler.
Yeah, I was reading through this thing and it seems like we're looking at 0.08% for the whole province. Bill. And it just seems to be a lot of extra expense. And I read through the report and I really couldn't see where the data is to justify this.
Counselor Regent.
Was anybody from the OPP, in particular, this particular superintendent, invited here to discuss this? Is that a thing? Is that something we can do?
There was a OPP information webinar set up on Monday morning and Monday afternoon. Yes, and as of 11:10 last night, it was canceled.
So can we invite this gentleman here?
We can. Apparently, though, this is, and I have to admit, staff know more about it than I do, so I'm going to let Corey and Tara speak to it.
So I think it would be good if we could attend the information sessions. So the mayor and the treasurer and myself have been invited to the information sessions. I'm really hoping that because it was canceled, maybe I don't know, and I hate to even give you the, but I'm really hoping that maybe this is being somewhat reconsidered. I know that Kelly said the treasurer's emails, and I saw Christine Reed from Attica Highlands who have just blown up. This is huge for everybody. And we're not even at the top of the rung here. There's a lot that are seeing much higher increases than us. So the other thing to consider, and if we ever do get to that point, I would think we would ask Scott Underhill to come and speak to us. I believe he did that years ago. Deputy Mayor, do you remember not Scott Underhill, but I believe the detachment commander came years ago when they started this whole thing and talked about how it was all going to work and all of that. It's a long time ago. So it's
Yeah, but I don't think somebody at Scott Underhill's level as a staff sergeant can really tell us much. He can justify this budget and say, this is what we're spending, and it all makes sense. But for me, the issue is just the general lack of accountability from the top. We are, where does it go from here, for example? How are we supposed to plan the future? This is a huge provincial organization over which who has control? Is there a civilian oversight body? I don't know. I heard a statement from the provincial attorney general this morning, which is just infuriating to listen to it. It didn't answer the question at all. Started off, we understand there are some municipalities that are concerned about budget increases, and went on from there to explain nothing. So we're sitting here, this is a 21.7% increase for us year over year. As Tara says, it's a 2.5% sudden hit on the tax base, added to whatever we were fighting to keep down. How do we control spending when stuff like this hits us?
So Roy and I had some brief comments. This is Roy's idea, but we just not pay them and see what happens. But you know, he's got a real point with that. We'd have to pay eventually. Years and years and years ago, and some of you won't remember because you weren't around maybe. The Ministry of Education was saying, here's their increase. And the increases were just out of control. Municipalities ended up in court fighting them, and the court came down and said, they control this, they give you the budget, you have no choice but to pass it on. And that's what's going to happen here. So not paying them is a nice thought, but I don't think it's an appropriate thought. When you listen to Addington Highlands meeting, or watched it, Deputy Reeve Frisch said that the OPP had just recently finished negotiating a labor contract. That's a lot of the increase. My concern is when Scott Underhill met with us, he said they are only staffed at 60 or 61%. So how many other officers are we going to get hit with? You know, like we add another, I don't know, 20 officers, then what happens? At $100-some thousand plus equipment, another $2 or $3 million spread over the area, right?
Yeah, it'd be nice not to pay them and see what happens, but I know that can't be done. However, I think there should be a letter from, somebody has to initiate it from some council going forward and saying, no, this is ridiculous. Like, you know, I understand
Mayor,
it has increases, but 21%.
Mayor, can I make a comment?
Hang on, Barry.
Without any real justification, like, it's like, I don't see it, like, but I think we should have a letter written by this council, sent out to other councils and brought forward, or someone should be leading this.
Councillor Hermer.
With respect to what Roy just said, I recently heard on the news where some municipalities are considering approaching the provincial government and demanding that they take back policing.
Yeah, user, yeah. Oh, okay. Corey.
Is this something that, as the mayor, you would take on as a letter, and we could send it off to? I mean, I can do it, or you and I could write it together. I'd be happy to sit with you and we could write it together, but it should be coming from the mayor, I would say, and council. And then we can get, or even, you know, and then we can get Tara to send it off to, you know, whoever you want, the Solicitor General or the, you know, the province, whoever you want to do it to. I think a good idea to do a letter for sure.
So Deputy Mayor, Councillor Fowler, Councillor Hood.
I support the mayor writing a letter and sending it off. I mean, I think a number of municipalities will do exactly the same thing. This will get taken up by the AMO ultimately, I suspect. But for now, right away, we should send out a letter from the mayor and council.
Councillor Fowler.
I agree with that. I think we've got to make a little bit of noise over this, maybe it'll help it more.
Councillor Hood, okay. Mr. Regent, any final comments?
No, my first police services board meeting is finally getting together on November 21st, so. That's coming up. If that's of any help, or there's questions you'd like me to take to that, or whatever the case may be.
You know, there were, to John's point earlier, there's no warning of this. Just boom, we're expecting, you know, 20,000 or something, which is normal. And all of a sudden, bang. And not just a little bit, a lot. And we're quite well off compared to other municipalities.
Yeah, when I was at the MBCA board meeting, the other municipalities, there's even more than 21% they're getting, right? And
Correct.
So just of interest, Sandra, Deputy Mayor Inglis had asked me yesterday about our OPP budget for the last several years. So our Deputy Treasurer yesterday in Kelly's absence kind of brought me what we budgeted and what we spent. And for the most part, since 2017, it's been down a little bit compared to what the anticipations were. So it's good. Sometimes, some years it's only $1,000 or a couple of thousand. But then other years it's kind of been, you know, 5,000 or 6,000. So these again are anticipated. I'm not justifying it all what came, but these are anticipated costs. And then at the end of the day in I think I've read in there 2027, it's all kind of, you know, so if it doesn't end up costing that much, then we'll get reimbursed for some of that. And we do, I think for some of our, Sandra's not here, but for some of our court costs now and stuff, we are getting little $500 here, $1,000 there kind of thing back. So that's always something just to keep in mind as well. I know these are big jumps for us, but it's pretty rare that it's actually cost us exactly what it's been anticipated each year. So it's, again, it's still big dollars, but that's a little bit, it's good, just good for you guys to know that.
Okay. So we're amending the motion to include that the mayor send a letter to, so to, go ahead, what have you got? You already have it. Data girl, you go right ahead.
So request the mayor send a letter to the Municipal Policing Board, Solicitor General, the Premier, John Jordan MPP, AMO, and all other municipalities objecting to the large increase in cost for policing.
Should we add Rick Reeves to that? Or let them worry about that themselves? What do you think? No, just, okay. In favor of the motion is Tara Red? Gary. The next item is Lions Club, Land O'Lakes, Santa Claus Parade. Sure, we can have a washroom break. Let's go till 10:25. Welcome back, everybody. We're at item B4, Lions Club, Land O'Lakes, Santa Claus Parade.
Moved by Councillor Fowler, second by Councillor Hudel, be it resolved that council receives for information a letter dated October 18th, 2024 from the Lions Club of Land O'Lakes advising the annual Northbrook Santa Claus Parade will take place on Saturday, November 23rd at 5:30 p.m. and inviting the Township of North Frontenac to have a float in the parade and thanking council for the generous donation to the parade. That as the Kelladar Berry Fire Department has participated in past parades and it is jointly operated by the Township of North Frontenac and the Township of Addington Highlands, they may wish to participate in the parade at the discretion of the fire chief. And the council approves providing public works trucks and or equipment subject to availability of staff and provided there isn't inclement weather. And that council does not wish to participate in the Santa Claus Parade by adding a float at this time.
Comments? In favor of the resolution? Passed. Okay, 11A, purchase of a combination tandem plow truck, sole source.
Moved by Councillor Hudel, second by Councillor Fowler. Be it resolved that council receives for information the Public Works Manager's administrative report entitled Purchase of a Combination Tandem Plow Truck Sole Source, and that council approved the sole source purchase of a new combination tandem plow truck at a negotiated price that is within the maximum approved budget of $415,000.
Deputy Mayor.
Greg, how's that gonna get here? Does the transport cost, added on purchase cost still come in under budget?
All depends where we get it. It's just basically, the report is just to give permission from council to sole source a piece of equipment that's already built.
But the one referenced is in Western Canada, so I assume it has to get from Calgary to here.
It's at Oaks Truck Center in Perth right now.
Where is it?
It was built by a company in Quebec. The company that's supplying the truck is from out west.
Is that truck still there? Do we know?
As far as I know, it's still there. We've just taken a quick glance at it, talked about it with Tom O. It's a pretty light, but he's an international dealer, so he's kind of hesitant to sell it. But we've been in touch with the owner and we need to look at it a little closer. We haven't really gone over the truck.
Right.
We didn't want to go in and get looking too close if you guys didn't agree to us potentially making this purchase. So that's why we're here today before we got too serious with them. We just wanted to be able to say, you know, go in, and if it's the right truck for us and if it meets our needs, we want to be able to say, you know what, we'll take it so that we don't have to wait till hopefully 2026. But that's kind of the goal here.
Deputy Mayor?
Is this, Greg, can you comment on this supply and demand imbalance in big trucks? Is that going to continue for years? Because I thought it kind of peaked 2 years ago.
Right now, the demand's great because everybody's in the same boat. A lot of their equipment's getting older and they're buying up anything that's pre-built right away. To get one built, cab and chassis is going to take 6 months to a year to get, and then to put the equipment on, you can another 6 months. So that's why the demand is so high.
As opposed to 3 or 4 months before. Okay. So if we approve this, we're putting we're expediting us checking this out. Wouldn't want this thing to slip by if we're interested, if it's good enough for us or it fits the bill. Okay, all in favor? That motion's carried. All right.
Is it okay through you, Mr. Mayor, if Greg is excused from the meeting? It's his day off today. He came in. We appreciate that. So
My first comment stands, Greg. Great. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Proposed work plan for the 2024-2028 North Frontenac Strategic Plan.
yeah, thanks, Roy.
You have 10 minutes, sir.
I'll be quick.
Yes.
I've never used this, so I guess we'll have to. Okay. So as you all know, strategic plan was approved in February 2024, and I was instructed to bring back a proposed work plan for council to consider. So myself, the managers all met, and that's a while ago now that we met, but we figured the best time to do this is just before your budget, because this is, you know, this is important for you guys to be thinking about while you're considering your budget, which is coming in November. We're starting, so that's why we're here. So we talk about the strategic priorities that were agreed to: vibrant, inclusive community, economic prosperity, sustainable core services, and environmental stewardship. And our vision was that was agreed upon was empowering our community, protecting our environment, with the mission of committed to our community's well-being by delivering efficient, sustainable, and inclusive services that enrich lives while protecting the environment. And values are to be progressive, inclusive, transparent, accountable, and sustainable. So we'll start off with the vibrant, inclusive community outcomes, desired outcomes. So increased community engagement. So we put some examples in here of things that we're doing or planning to do or have started to do. So fire promotion, prevention, and preparedness initiatives, essential services fair, community grants program, volunteer appreciation, social media, and responsible will be the Adam, the fire chief, and the MCD. And it's already, some of these initiatives already started in 2024 and will continue on with these. Increased four-season tourism recreational opportunities. So that's examples of what we're doing already: advertising in the Frontenac Recreation Guide, KMP Trail development, That's manager, community development, public works manager, and we'll work with Frontenac County. As you've seen today, we've started that. Again, a lot of those initiatives have already started and they'll continue to be ongoing. Continued provision of safe, efficient, and enhanced recreational facilities, trails, and parks. So that's we've installed the pickleball nets at Plevna Courts, accessible privies throughout the township. Again, the KMP Trail. And you guys just approved a rink project that Brooke's working on an application for. So those again, manager, community development, public works manager in Frontenac County. And again, these have all started 2024 and they're ongoing. Provide support to community partners for healthcare, senior and youth services. So we talked at that time was to increase numbers of doctors, nurse practitioners, other healthcare. So this is continued support for doctor recruitment incentives, and we've put the responsibility for this as mayor and council and 2024 and ongoing. So you've started that already. You've awesome new doctor in Northbrook, and you guys have done well funding that. So it's great. Then we talked about affordable accommodations, including opportunities for seniors. So county seniors housing funding, mayor and council 2024 and ongoing. There has been some discussions, but that kind of got put on hold for now. I assume you guys will want to start that up eventually, but that's where we'll go with that if you guys agree. Increased collaboration with community service agencies. So we talked about communication opportunities, the SALT program. Councillor Fowler's heavily involved in that. After school programs, which you guys fund up at the Clarendon Central School, and use of township facilities for initiatives. Mayor, council, and MCD responsibility in 2024 and ongoing. Again, already well underway. Then we talked about supporting inclusivity, raised awareness of income and lifestyle disparities throughout the township. So that's your partnerships with Rural Frontenac Community Services and Land O'Lakes Community Services. We'll invite them to come and do presentations so that council staff and the public are aware of the services they provide. We'll continue to invite them to invitations to Essential Services Fair, recognition of Pride Month, which we started this year, and recognition of Mental Health Awareness Month. So again, these are just examples of what we're doing, and there's lots of, I'm sure there's other things we do as well. Mayor and council, they're responsible in 2024 and ongoing. Enhanced support for community organizations and agencies that provide assistance to the least advantaged members of our community. So again, annual donations to the food banks, which you've been doing, seniors and continue to do. Seniors Home Support Program, which is picking up right now, going well. Seniors and law enforcement together, so SALT again, communications, and the community grant program. So mayor and council, CAO, treasurer, and MCD responsible, and again, 2024 and ongoing. So those have pretty much all started, and we just continue to move along, and they seem to be getting better all the time. So continued support for local schools. So again, you guys approve a little bit of funding each year for the schools, which is very helpful for them. Mayor and council and MCD, and then 2024 and ongoing. So our next one would be economic prosperity. So the desired outcomes, we'll talk about increased number of business startups and expansions. So branded materials program and the economic development task force work plan, which seems to be moving along nicely. So that'd be the MCD, EDTF, County of Frontenac Economic Development, again, 2024 and ongoing, moving along. Stable funding provided for economic development, budget and grant opportunities, mayor, council, and MCD, and 2025 and ongoing. So that's something we'll be looking at our budget in 2025 for. Enhancement of the community improvement plan, EDTF to review the township's CIP, and then Frontenac County potential CIP. So Frontenac County is discussing implementing a CIP down the road. We're not sure yet. I don't think we have dates yet, but they are discussing that. So we've put the responsibility MCD, clerk, planning manager, EDTF, and council, and that'll be 2025 and 2026 discussions. Continued support for the economic development task force. So EDTF to provide a work plan based on council's strategic plan. And that'll go through mayor and council. And again, that's 2024 and ongoing. So that's already moving along nicely. And then sufficient staff and resources to support economic development. So continue to monitor and evaluate mayor and council and MCD, and 2024 and ongoing. Preparation for potential development opportunities. So implementation of development policies that encourage the provision of a wide range of housing options, amenities and services with a convenient distance. So examples of what's happening with that: delegated authority for site plan severances, the community planning permit system, official plan amendment coming up, and communal services. Mayor and council and clerk planning manager for that one. Desired outcome is increased tourism. So we have the EDTF work plan, the electronic vehicle charging stations, which we're still awaiting to hear back from one of the grants, correct? And our visitor guide that we have started last year. So again, MCD, EDTF in 2024 and ongoing. And then promotion of a range of housing options to provide affordable housing, including public-private partnerships, EDTF work plan, EDTF's responsible, and that's we put that down as a 2026 project. Identifying opportunities for efficiency, so additional cost-saving partnerships and or shared services for efficiency. So we're example joint council meetings, which we just had, which went well, and review bylaws and procedures, mayor, council, and managers. So we'll all be working at that together to try to find those efficiencies, and 2024 ongoing. So we've started that already. I'm working at the 10 minutes trying to get this done. All right, sustainable core services. So desired outcomes, enhanced standards for roads and other core and non-core infrastructure was the desired outcome. In order to accomplish that, examples are asset management, modernization. So that's through work orders, OSIM budget inspections, bridge inspections, that should say, road needs study, ongoing updates to all assets, established levels of service, fire department, and fleet management. So many of those have started already. Ongoing, so that'll be the public works manager, the fire chief, and the treasurer. Long-term plans for municipal buildings relative to safety, functionability, and affordability. Follow the building condition assessment plan. Managers, we meet each year before budget and review that and make sure that it's all included in our capital plan. So that's again 2024 and ongoing. And integration of the asset management plan into township capital and operational planning. Progressively work towards a fully funded plan for capital and operations that can be projected out over a multi-year plan. So again, managers will continue to work at this, and that'll be for your discussion at each budget. 2024 and ongoing, started already. So enhanced township services. So the desired outcomes, enhancement of township roads, parking areas, and boat launches, boat launch parking improvements, implementation of new parking bylaw, signage. That's manager, community development, public works manager, and the CAO. And again, those have both started 2024. So we're moving along with that as best we can. Improve governance and the use of community halls. So examples of what we're doing with that is new booking software, do some bylaw amendments, and manager of community development's working on that. And that started in 2024 as well. And an asset management plan embedded in township operations, implement asset tracking repairs managers in 2024 and ongoing. And I have not been changing this. Thank you. No, I just. Excellent. Thank you. What did I do without you, Brooke? Okay, so then we're talking about being prepared for shovel-ready projects when funding becomes available. So desired outcomes, establishment of protocols for regular contact with provincial and federal authorities for early notice of potential programs. So develop and maintain contacts with federal and provincial governments. So we put that down as a responsibility of mayor, council, and CAO to develop and maintain those relationships with the provincial and federal counterparts. 2024 and ongoing, started that. Pre-planning in all departments for shovel-ready opportunities. So pre-budgeting or pre-approval of projects and grants, managers 2024 and ongoing. So that's where we'll be coming to you guys and saying, we'd like to get an engineering done for this or that and be prepared for those grants ahead of time. So I know there's costs to it, but when those grants come out, they want that. And if we don't have it, then it's going to be really hard for us to be successful. So 2024, we'll start that. We have started it, and we'll keep you in the loop with that. It's just discussions at budget time for sure. Okay, and then we're talking about optimizing waste management practices through diversion, recycling, and repurposing. So reduced use of landfills. So continued consultant reporting, grinding and compacting, public works manager be in charge, and that's the 2024 start. Increased volume of recyclables. So mattress recycling program, transition to two-stream recycling systems, transition to full producer responsibility. That Public Works Manager, and that again has started 2024 and through 2025. And enhancement of repurposing programs, the reuse center, Public Works Manager in 2024 ongoing. So we're going to talk about establishing the township as an employer of choice. So desired outcomes. So it was agreed that at our strategic plan, we do an organizational review and compensation review completed every 5 years. So the last one was completed in 2021, and CAO and managers will be in charge of getting that done. Next round will be 2026. And we will be putting that in budget too for in 2026 for your consideration. Enhanced training opportunities for all staff and members of the fire department, staff appreciation, wellness events, continuous training. CAO and managers will take on that responsibility, and 2024 and ongoing. So we've started some of those things. So it's great. And we're moving into environmental stewardship. So development of policies and programs to protect the environment. Examples, planning department to work on updated policies, natural heritage study, county official plan, community planning permit system, mayor and council responsibility, clerk, planning manager, county planning department. So we put a time frame of 2024 to 2026 to work through this. And development of an action plan to manage, mitigate climate change impacts, and that's pending environmental task force recommendations. So we got mayor and council environmental task force. So that started a couple months ago. So that's great. That's 2024. That's started. So it'll be ongoing until we get where we need to be. And then we'll talk about communicate directly with the province whenever available and keep links of communication open at all times. So follow up with contacts throughout the year. So again, examples of that would be regular contact with federal and provincial politicians, employees, departments, Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing, etc. And that's be the responsibility of the mayor and council, and 2024 and ongoing. Just continue with that. That's very important. Collaboration with municipal organizations and other municipalities to advocate for desired change. So we're into supporting requests for other municipalities and providing feedback on potential legislative changes. Mayor and council, and you just said that today on a couple occasions in our meeting, which is great. So 2024 and ongoing. Regular communication with provincial authorities. So examples of that, monitoring news announcements for changes, attending conferences and trainings, and that'd be CAO and managers responsible. 2024 and ongoing. Collaboration with county staff to modernize the process for calculation on lake capacity. Example be your official plan. Clerk planning manager will work on that. And we put that as a 2027 priority. That's it. Questions?
Very nice. Really well put together. And I think you and staff have done a great job so far. Okay, Deputy Mayor.
Lots of detail in there. Thank you, Corey. Just one change. Please don't refer to electronic vehicles. They're electric vehicles.
Okay.
Change that.
Noted.
Call it EV.
Okay.
Councillor Flower.
Regarding the waste program, the blue box wasn't mentioned. That's something that we're going to be looking at in the future, right?
Yes, it was mentioned, but I was going quite quickly, Councilor Fallon. So, but yes, definitely.
Just one comment. I didn't count all the responsibility, but the management of community development is going to be busy the next few years. So maybe you want to look at that, but I know we're going to talk about that in budget anyway. So,
That's right.
and shovel ready. So how are we going to identify projects that need to be shovel ready?
So we have our study in place that we did for the facilities. So it'll be looking at some of those and having some of those engineered and ready so that when those grants come up, that we have that already. So that's kind of where we're so we're going to look at some of our larger projects, some of our more important ones, that we're thinking going to be hard for us to afford this. And then we'll get some engineering done. I don't know whether it's an expansion at one of the halls or so we would get that done, have it ready. And then when the grant comes out, we just have all of that. Typically, when we've done that in the past, we're also getting, they're giving us ideas of what the cost is going to be. So we can be more accurate in our grant applications. And they really like to see that document.
And I think it was important, Corey, that you mentioned that there will be some cost of that because it's going to need some engineering.
Yes,
So council will have to prove some engineering costs that may not be used for years.
that's correct. You have to consider it at least.
Yes.
That's right.
Yeah, thank you for that.
Right.
Deputy Mayor.
Right, that's exactly what I was gonna say. In order for us to be shovel ready, and I've always wondered about this, how do you do it without spending money? Well, you don't. So you need a council which is thinking more than 2 years ahead. And it's really, really tough when we get increases like this OPP thing that hits us, because what that does, in my mind, is it just shaves off all the interesting stuff that could happen within a township, because suddenly you're hit with a huge new cost. If we got 2.5% because of that, how do we stick money into a speculative business plan? I just don't know how we do it.
And I agree, it's very difficult, but when we get these, a lot of times we get these grants from the province or the feds. And it's, you're proving that you're shovel ready. And if you're not, then we're just wasting our time writing them, right? So I think I shouldn't say, it's much more feasible if we're, and I know it's a priority, money's tight, right? But it's
And some of
important.
these shovel-ready projects have to start within 2 months once the grant's approved, right?
That's
So
right.
You have to have all that engineering
Yeah.
in place.
If it's not ready, you don't have enough time to do the engineering.
That's right.
Especially when you're talking about procurement processes and whatever else and so on. You can do. There are ways to link or minimize the cost, but there are costs.
Yeah.
We have to, like, for instance, the ice surface or the rink surface at Clarendon Hall or Claremont Hall. I keep getting that and Clarendon Station mixed up. There was engineering fees in there. Well, even if we don't get the grant, we'll always have that.
Yeah.
So next time we've got it. Yeah, any final comments? In favor of supporting Corey's? Okay,
Thank you.
do that.
Moved by Counselor Fowler, second by Counselor Hudel. Be it resolved that council receives for information the CIO's administrative report entitled Proposed Work Plan for the 2024 to 2028 North Frontenac Strategic Plan, and the council approves the proposed work plan as prepared by the managers and CIO, and that the strategic work plan will be reviewed annually during budget deliberation.
In favor? Carried. Okay, removal of agreement with Kingston Humane Society for pound service and changes in fees.
Moved by Counselor Regent, second by Deputy Mayor Ingles. Be it resolved that council receives for information the clerk planning manager's administrative report entitled Renewal of Agreement with Kingston Humane Society for pound services and changes in fees. The council will consider a bylaw later in the meeting to authorize the mayor and clerk to sign the agreement with the Kingston Humane Society for pound services.
Comments? Counselor Fowler.
Yeah, I see the fees have gone up quite a bit for this, thing. It's $6,000 a year. That's a lot more than what we've been given.
Deputy Mayor.
I recommend we terminate the contract.
Corey. Comment?
I just don't know what we would do with the animals that I think we need to have. I don't think we can just do that. We have to have some place we don't have any place to put the animals or to deal with those.
Would we be able to possibly, I agree, if we don't do this and put them somewhere else, somebody will complain and we'll be up on charges for inhumane treatment of animals. You can just see the vicious circle. But would some of the other municipalities like Matachewan or Madawaska or Lanark have something that maybe we can make use of?
I really don't know. I can look into that.
But
I
in
don't
the
know.
meantime, I don't see us having the choice. Whether you, Roy?
Is this just for pound services? That's all it's for.
Do we have to take the animals there? No, they come pick them up?
It depends. So our bylaw officer often will take the animals there at times. And sometimes members of the public will take the animals there. They'll pick them up alongside the road and take them there. So we don't necessarily know, I couldn't tell you how many times we use it a year or whatever, but we just had one little while ago. A lady came here with a dog and left it here. We ended up having bylaw come and take it. I don't know what we would have done with that dog. It sat at my office at my feet for 2 hours till they got here to pick it up, right? Which, fine, it was a nice dog and it worked for that day, but I can't do that all the time, that's for sure.
Oh, Cheryl, new pet. Okay, any final comments? Roy?
So in the letter, they talk about 29 stray cats. Was that a one-time incident or like
I would think that would be cumulative. I don't think it would be a one. I think it's probably cumulative. I would think, but again, I just can't answer that. That's
Right.
my guess.
So this
Councillor Reece.
ridiculous increase is because all of a sudden there's more animals being taken to the Humane Society. Is that what
No.
this is?
No, this is cost catching up. This is.
So they haven't charged us
increases
enough
in-
before.
Increases in staffing costs, accommodation, by the way, the figure for the county or the tax for next year isn't gonna be pretty either, just another, whatever, this is just part of it. Councillor Fowler,
We have a record of accurate numbers of how many animals we, take down there at all.
No, we don't.
there is information in the document that shows how much we've been paying.
I think we should just cut it in half. That's what you're gonna get.
So we're gonna dump them at your place?
Hmm?
We're gonna dump the animals at your place?
Yeah, I got a way of helping them out.
Yeah, I'm sure that would happen.
So we have to agree to this? We're going from 1677 to to $6,000.
Well, I don't think we have a choice, but maybe the CEO can look at other municipalities if they have the opposite service.
Yeah.
And if not, someone please tell me what choice we have.
Right. Well, that's the same thing. You don't have a choice with the OPP. The choice for the OPP was made like 10 years ago. 8 years ago. You know, what do you do, Tara?
So one of the things that you may want to consider is looking at the person who's getting this service, which would be your dog owners, paying for that service, which they do pay the fee for their animal when they pick it up, but maybe increasing our cost for dog tags so that we have some more revenue coming in to cover some of this expense. So I mean, right now, I think it's $15 a year or something for a dog tag. And you can get a 10-year license for $100, which is not a lot of money. So maybe.
Considering a
so
dog's
there's
life
an
is
op-
10 or 12 years, you know.
So I mean, we may want to look at trying to increase the revenue on that side to help cover some of the cost of having bylaw enforcement, pound services available for dogs.
Councilor Fowler?
What is, Central and South Frontenac doing regarding this? I'm sure they're getting the same information.
So I'll spend some time and look into that. I'll ask them what they're doing. I'm assuming they're probably using the Humane Society, but I will look into that for sure.
So can we defer this resolution until CEO comes back with some more information regarding other kennels that can be used or pounds that can be used?
Is there a timeline on this, Corey? We have time for another meeting.
Yeah, November, December, I think the agreement has to be signed by, so.
Deputy Mayor?
Corey, is there any problem in crossing county lines for such services?
I do have just a little bit of information about that. And this was years ago when we had another increase from the Humane Society. Jenny was the clerk at that time. And her and I did some research on the potential of using the Humane Society in Napanee. And they were not willing to take animals from North Frontenac. Now, I mean, that was probably 5 years ago. And that was the Humane Society, not a private pound. That's all I can share with that.
But there's nothing internal in our legislation that says we can't ask.
All right, so we amend the motion or we defer the motion till the next meeting pending further information from the CIO. You gonna be okay?
I told why.
You're on television or on, camera. Okay. Much as I have 2 dogs and don't want to see the dog tag fees go up, I might be inevitable. Sarah, you want to read that?
And the amendment reads, and that council defers the agreement with the Kingston Humane Society for pound services until further information can be provided by the CAO on option.
All in favor of the revised resolution? Carried. Okay, we are at 11D, Shore Road Allowance Closure and Bylaw, Radke.
Moved by Councilor Regent, seconded by Deputy Mayor Ingles. Be it resolved that council receives for information the clerk planning manager's administrative report entitled Shore Road Allowance Closure and Bylaw Radke. And that as required by bylaw 2023, all that part of the road allowance adjacent to part of lot 6, concession 8, geographic township of Clarendon, being part 1 on registered plan 13R12610, Big Gull Lake, be declared a surplus and sold to the adjoining owners. Appraisals of the property are not necessary as this is a shore road allowance. And the council will consider a bylaw later in the meeting to stop up, close, and sell a portion of the shore road allowance.
Comments? In favor? Carried. 11E, Session and Shore Road Allowance Closure and Bylaw, Clayton.
Moved by Councilor Regent, seconded by Deputy Mayor Ingles. Be it resolved that council receives for information the clerk planning manager's administrative report entitled Concession and Shore Road Allowance Closure and Bylaw Clayton, and that as required by bylaw 2023, road allowance between lots 12 and 13, concessions 8 and 9, geographic township of Barrie, being part 10 on registered plan 13R13510, and part 11 on registered plan 13R5891, and part of the shore road allowance described as part 1 on 13R13551, save and accept part 9 on registered plan 13R5891, Mississauga Lake, be declared a surplus and sold to the adjoining owners. None of appraisal of this property is not necessary as these are road allowances, and the council will consider a bylaw later in the meeting to stop up, close, and sell the identified portions of the concession and shore road allowance.
Comments? In favor of the resolution? Carried. 11F, proposed amendments to the fees and charges of bylaw 6323.
Moved by Councilor Regent, seconded by Deputy Mayor Ingles. Be it resolved that council receives for information the clerk planning manager's administrative report entitled Proposed Amendments to the Fees and Charges Bylaw 6323. The council approves the proposed fees in principle as follows: commissioning a document, $25; amendments to a site plan agreement, $1,200; consent for easement concurrent with an application for a new lot, $250; land cost for concession lot reserve forest road allowances, 55 cents per square foot; fee for a license agreement application, $300; and annual fee for a license agreement, $150. And the council instructs the clerk to schedule a public meeting for council to receive any public comments and consider adopting a new bylaw with the updated schedules.
Comments? Deputy Mayor.
Tara, I was just wondering why is there such a difference between the site plan control cost and the licensing cost? Like when you list the number of visits that have to occur for a licensing cost, do these charges really relate to the labor input for each of these services?
For sure. So with a site plan agreement, the costs really are for the planners. Because that's a site plan agreement that has to go through the process of having studies and layouts and plans and peer reviewing and things like that. So there's quite an intense amount of staff time and maybe one site visit. The license agreement is really just about using township land generally for access to property or a dock. And so it really is a site visit. And then we do some, work to draft the agreements and do reports to council and things like that. So there is quite a difference in the amount of work.
And those planning charges that we incur for a site plan agreement, they relate to the county only? Is that that's our only charge for planning service? Is that correct?
Yes, sort of. So there is township staff who work on site plans as well. So there is some cost to cover some of our time and the planning staff. This is actually, so we already have a site plan, minor and major, but what we don't have a fee for is an amendment to a site plan. So we had to charge for a new site plan rather than just to put in a fee for something we never had a fee for and had to use a new site plan to look at that. So that's kind of more of a fixing that up, and any other costs outside of the county. So if we had to have a study done and a peer review done, that peer review cost is passed to the applicant to cover.
Okay, any further comments? All in favor of the resolution? Carried. Okay, item 12, Economic Development Task Force.
Moved by Councillor Regent, seconded by Deputy Mayor Engels. Be it resolved, the council receives for information the October 2nd, 2024 notes of the Economic Development Task Force.
Comments? In favor? Carried. Item 13, giving notice of motion. Anyone wish to give notice of motion? Seeing none. Item 14, motions, written notice of which has been given. If there aren't any. Now we're down to item 15, council verbal reports. Let me catch up to you here. Okay, so the mayor from the county proclamation day, which is International Geographic Information System Day, was proclaimed as November the 20th, 24. The last meeting, which was last week, we had presentations from Dr. Peter Olgaza, the medical officer of health from KFL&A, as well as an idea of what they're looking for in the next budget. Ms. Laura Carter, the chief executive officer and the chief librarian for the Kingston Frontenac Public Library, same way. Here's what we're doing. This is what we're looking for. From the CAO, we introduced and accepted a Marine Service Passenger Code of Conduct for the Howe Island Ferry. There were 2 ferries. Actually, I guess there's 3, but 2 of them go to Howe Island. They're just a cable under the water, I understand. Is that right, Fred? The other one is the Wolf Islander 4. That's the big one. So this is 3. We run that, but everything is paid for by the township and the MTO. But there's been some serious issues with some of the residents traveling or users of the ferry and maybe some of our staff. So we have this code of conduct now. The county established a governance policies review committee. It's time to update the procedures and so on. The committee consists of Fran Smith, she's the mayor of Central, Judy Greenwood Spears, who's the mayor of Frontenac Islands, Councillor Fowler, and myself. And that will start on December the 17th, I think. KMP Trail, we've completed the expropriations and leading to where we were this morning earlier. Frontenac paramedics, we adopted a legislative response time. It's really interesting. If you want to know where an ambulance is coming, take a look at this. If it's sudden cardiac arrest, their target time is within like 6 minutes. And every minute is like a 10% reduction in life expectancy. And they're pretty close to meeting it. I imagine most of the calls are in Kingston area. Then we have something called CTAS, Canadian Triage, what it is, something assistance or system. Resuscitation, emergent, urgent, less urgent, non-urgent. Less urgent, the target is 75% within 2 hours. Non-urgent, 75% within 4 hours. I question that, saying, less urgent, non-urgent, can't we do any better? Like, why is it 75%? Why is it 95% or whatever? And it's a provincial schedule, and it's based on software related, so it is what it is. So that was adopted. The Frontenac Municipal Service Corporation, we had a board of directors meeting, update on progress, where they were. We've retained a company called Clearford to help us navigate the next series of steps. Roy and his tech committee will be working much more, working very closely with them. We've agreed to start the process for recruiting a part-time CEO. And they will be, the Frontenac Municipal Service Corporation will be making a presentation to council in the near future so that everybody understands what's happening. And that's about it. So we now have, I had no meetings or no contact with the Lake Association Alliance. Counselor Good is not here. Counselor Regent.
So for Lakelands Family Health Team, we had our board meeting, Dr. Weldon, that was his first meeting with us. He's got a lot of very progressive ideas and that has been very welcomed by the team there. That clinics has, they're even busier now. You may, if you ever drive by there, you'll notice the parking lot's pretty full all the time now, which is amazing. He has picked up 800 additional patients off of Healthcare Connect's waiting list. Some of these people have not been seen by a physician in close to 10 years. So he has picked up some very complex care clients, but that is his thing. And he is doing excellent work there. So we're pretty happy with him. I have reached out to the Land O'Lakes Community Services Board regarding what they see to be my role as their council liaison, and I have not heard back from the chair, so we'll see what happens there. The Lake Associations, obviously nothing except I want to thank everyone for your support today for the next step for Mazenod Lake. I think you'll find that is going to help everyone at some point. And finally, the Police Services Board is meeting on November 21st. So James, whose last name I can't think of at the moment, he's an admin for South Frontenac, I think, has been hugely helpful in getting this sorted and making sure we all have access to training. But we're meeting on November 21st. So hopefully I'll have something to share with you after that.
Thank you. Counselor Hoodle.
We had our Mississippi Valley Conservation Authority Board meeting on Monday. We had a report about the watershed and the drawdowns of the lakes have started or will be starting shortly. The condition assessment on the dam on Farm Lake was done, just completed. And we talked about draft budget, and I know the operating budget is going to increase by at least 2.9%. I don't have the capital budget, but that will affect North Frontenac by about $2,500 increase from last year. Well, that's all I have.
Counselor Hermer, do you have anything to report?
Nothing to report.
Thank you. Counselor Fowler.
Thank you. Eastern Ontario Trails Alliance, we had a meeting on October 10th. During that meeting, the money allocated for Schooner Lake Road project has been adopted. $25,000 plus HST will be paid to the township for that. I think they'll pay the contractor. Nothing with the lake associations. The SALT, North and Central SALT Committee, we had a meeting. We have a presentation coming up in Parham, and I think that's going to be on legal wills and powers of attorney. And on January 16th, we'll have a meeting, a regular meeting. We'll be planning our future things. January 24th, Snow Road Station, there'll be a presentation at. That's it.
Thank you, Counselor Fowler. Counselor or Deputy Mayor Ingles.
Nothing to report on Ward 3 Lakes.
Thanks, everybody. Item 16, introduction and reading of bylaws.
Moved by Counselor Regent, seconded by Deputy Mayor Ingles, be it resolved that leave be given to the mover to introduce the following bylaws that have been circulated to all members of council. Bylaw 2024-63 to close, stop up and sell a concession road allowance and shore road allowance. And bylaw 2024-64 to close, stop up and sell a shore road allowance. And that these bylaws be read a first, second, and third time and finally passed.
Any comments? In favor? Carried. Anyone online or in the council chamber have anything they wish to add about any of the items we discussed today? Thank you. No closed session, nothing to arise in the report from confirming by law.
Moved by Counselor Regent, seconded by Deputy Mayor Ingles. Be it resolved that bylaw 2024-66, being a bylaw to confirm all actions and proceedings of council for its regular meeting held October 25th, 2024, be read a first, second, and third time and finally passed.
Any comments? In favor? Carried. Okay, before we get to adjournment, CTAS means Canadian Triage Assessment System. Also, I'd like to acknowledge something that Councillor Regent mentioned before we started the meeting. This is the halfway mark of our term as councillors. Thanks, Stephanie. So adjournment of the council meeting.
Moved by Counselor Regent, seconded by Deputy Mayor Ingles. Be it resolved that council adjourns the meeting at 11:16 a.m. until November 22nd, 2024, or at the call of the chair.
Comments? In favor? Carried. Thank you, everyone.